Welcome to Paul, Coach, and Patrick, the Fantasy Football Podcast. This is episode number 1. We are a week behind. We were going to do one last week, and we didn't get around to it because we're lazy. We're lazy, Paul. We're going to talk about some non-lazy people this week. So I thought we're gonna go over our top 10 list of two position types, quarterbacks and tight ends. I mean, you have any thoughts about that, Paul?
Yeah, this is. I think it's kind of appropriate because there are a lot of good quarterbacks and very few really good tight ends. It's kind of a desert out there for tight ends. A lot of you would know it. I hope people are watching this and saying, "Oh my gosh, I totally understand." But yeah, there are very few tight ends that make any lasting difference, and there are very many quarterbacks that are putting up a lot of yards and touchdowns, and I think this is quite appropriate.
Yep, we're splitting it up, and we are dividing. We're doing 2 position groups each episode, and then a few news topics before we start the our lists. But I think we should just jump right into it. So the first thing I want to talk about was Carson Wentz surgery. A little bit about this going into it. So Carson Wentz, Indianapolis, it's going to be his first year there. Indianapolis needed a quarterback. I mean, they had a man.
They have Philip Rivers, who retired and has said since that he'd be willing to come back, and he's staying in shape, and that's
staying in shape. But he shot puts the ball.
He does,
which is a problem.
Yeah,
the problem for fantasy. I mean, who's their leading receiver there? Arguably T.Y. Hilton.
Arguably T.Y. Hilton. I really do like the second round pick last year.
Paris Campbell.
No. Oh gosh, it's been a minute.
It's Paul, the master of names, can't remember a name right now.
Yes.
But Paris Campbell, he is there, correct?
I believe so. He's still on the roster. But
anyway, so if you want to dive into Carson Wentz surgery, just how long he's going to be out for?
Yeah, he injured his foot in practice, and he is going to be out 5 to 12 weeks. He had surgery last Monday. Basically, this is kind of a shock. This was a match made in heaven. He and Frank Reich worked together. In Philadelphia in 2017, when he arguably had his MVP season. I genuinely believe he should have been MVP that season. He had 53 touchdowns with 4 games to go. He was the best player that year. I mean, his Week 1 game against Washington was fantastic, and there are several memorable throws in that game. And I think Carson Wentz would have benefited really from more time with his receivers. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing him on the field. Unfortunately, though, they also had some horrible news that Quentin Nelson injured his foot and also had to have surgery, and will be out for the same duration of time as Carson Wentz, which that's their best offensive lineman. People, when he was coming out, they said that he was not a all-pro lineman. He was a Hall of Fame lineman, and he's every bit of that. We've spoken about him on our just regular podcast. If you'd like to check that out
on the same channel.
Yeah. On the same channel. We also went through the first round picks of this previous draft, and you can check that out as well. My analysis of each pick and how I think they can help their squads.
So when we have these 2 come back, I think they are going to have a pretty significant change on the field. So that defense is just stacked, just absolutely stacked, and it's a phenomenal team with a full healthy team. And Carson Wentz was just a cherry that needed to top that team, and they got him from Philadelphia because they didn't want him. I mean, he was there was some bad vibes in Philly, And I mean, you have Ertz trying to get out of Philadelphia. He's still in there, but he doesn't want to be there. I mean, it doesn't look good for you, Philadelphia fans. You know,
I don't understand why they got rid of Doug Peterson. It doesn't make sense to me. I think
it doesn't make sense to me either.
They made the playoffs every year with him except for last year, and they fired him because of it. And now they're bringing in.
Oh, it has the same Jim Caldwell vibes.
Yeah, it really does. Except he has a Super Bowl championship.
Oh, and I think we should mention this. We are Lions fans.
We are Lions
so
fans.
We might be a little biased towards some Lions players.
Oh yes. And by the way, the wide receiver I was mentioning, the second round pick from last year, Michael Pittman Jr. out of USC.
Yes.
Did not give up his 11 jersey to Carson Wentz. So Carson Wentz will be wearing number 2. But that's okay, because I really do like Michael Pittman. He's a physical receiver, and I think will benefit greatly from somebody like Carson Wentz on the field when he gets back. Right now, I believe Brissett's still there. No, he went to New England. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if by next week Phil Rivers would be in camp.
Grilling his shot put throws.
Yes,
on the field.
Well, I just think they need a veteran presence in there.
Yeah, it's nice to have, but you know, he's not gonna be there the whole year. Carson's gonna come back, and hopefully Carson Wentz does well, because I do like Carson Wentz as a person, but he hasn't been doing well it was last 2 years.
Yeah, I think injuries.
Yeah. Also, not having a wide receiving core is pretty difficult.
Yeah.
Trying to throw the ball. Yeah, it was difficult for him last year, and seeing that he has some options at wide receiver, I think he should do well. Okay. Well, anyway, I mean, I want to move on to a little another QB topic. Mr. Lamar Jackson is now off the COVID-19 reserve list. I think that's what they say. I don't know.
Yes.
He's cleared COVID.
So he tested positive for COVID last year in November. And he had to miss the Tuesday game they played against the Steelers. And then tested positive again last week, I believe. And John Harbaugh said that he had many symptoms and that he looked better than he expected Lamar Jackson to look, and that's a good thing. Again, we talked about first round picks, and Rashard Bateman was one of them, and should help bolster that passing offense, which desperately needs it. And we'll get into that when we talk about our top 10.
So, 2 things I kind of wanted to point out. The first thing is, you know, Paul's the introvert, and I'm the extrovert here. And Paul is also an NFL/football knowledge person compared to myself. You know, Paul has the knowledge, I don't. So, hence the name Paul Coaching Patrick. Also goes on with the PCP naming convention as well. And
we don't do drugs.
We do not do drugs.
We do not do drugs.
You know, Paul. How dare you? How dare you even think people think with that? You son of a bitch.
Wow. Okay.
Oh.
But
son of a gun. I'll bleep that out. So the one thing I want to bring up next is a little bit of my boy Joshy Javelins, aka Josh Allen. He just got paid 6-year extension, $258 million, $150 guaranteed, and $100 million signing bonus, right? Or signing,
yes. Yeah. So, 150 guaranteed, largest guarantee in NFL history. He is averaging $43 million per year. That's second behind Patrick Mahomes.
Patty Mahomes, a $500 million man.
Yeah. Patrick Mahomes was $141.5 million guarantee. This is 8.5 more million guaranteed. I really like this deal for him. He signed through 2028. This is a franchise guy. I've liked Josh Allen ever since he was at Wyoming, and
J1. He's a J1 Josh Allener.
Yeah, I am. And I thought this guy was going to be good. I really believe the Browns were going to take him one, but as you know, um, as as we got close to the draft, it seemed like Baker was going one, and obviously he did. And they're working on a deal right now, as is Lamar Jackson, who's working on a deal. So these young guys who got taken in 2018 are working on extensions, and um, this is just really good for Josh Allen. This is really good for Bills Mafia.
Bills Mafia. A little touching subject. Were they threatening to move to Austin, Texas?
Yes, they
I mean,
were.
if you want to explain this to me, because I only saw a little divot of this, but I'm like,
I did as well. They got new owners several years ago.
Yep.
For a long time it was Ralph Wilson, and he sold the team. And they were threatening to move. Now there has been a lot of backlash in Buffalo, as you could imagine.
Okay, you can't betray the Buffalo Mafia. Like,
No,
it just
Bills Mafia. Bills Mafia is.
Yeah, it's just.
Yeah.
I just said the wrong thing, but
Yeah,
I could die. I could die
wasn't-
tomorrow. They could kill me for just saying the Bills Mafia
Yeah.
or the Buffalo Mafia.
Well,
Oh,
no.
I don't even know what I'm saying right now.
But Bills fans are extremely loyal, and frankly, I understand if the Lions ever thought of moving out of Detroit, it'd be riots, and
Yeah,
that's pretty similar to what's going on in Buffalo. They want to build a new stadium, but the owners want it to be kind of a reasonably priced thing, and they're in Western New York, and with taxes, they want to not spend as much money, and that's a whole different thing that we could talk about
yeah.
another time. But basically, they don't want to spend $1 billion on a stadium in New York and have it not reach the capacity of other stadiums or the luxury of other stadiums because they're in Western New York. And yes, it's Western New York, but it's still New York, and there's still tax implications and things of that nature. And I can't see the Buffalo Bills outside of Western New York.
Nor can I.
And I think a lot of fans would be really upset. Like when San Diego lost the Chargers, the outpouring of just sadness from Chargers fans was just, they were livid, and you can understand it. But I feel like this is
So much more.
so much more.
So much more. I mean, they're just ingrained. They're ingrained into Buffalo, and I mean, realistically, the Bills Mafia is something like you don't want to be an opposing team going there and then talking trash to any member of the team, because you're gonna get jumped. You might get hurt badly. You don't go to Buffalo where
we don't advocate physical violence.
We do not. But I'd love to go to a Buffalo game, wearing a Buffalo jersey, Josh Allen jersey.
Yes.
Fuck, I love Josh Allen. Oh gosh. Well, Paul.
I wear an Andre Reed jersey. Cool. Or Bruce Smith.
Possibly.
All
right, well, you're throwing the throwbacks here.
Yeah.
But okay. Anyway, another little news topic here. So Trey Lance, Kyle Shanahan said this week that Trey Lance is going to play this year. It doesn't really indicate that he's going to start, but it's that he's going to play. He might play a few snaps. So if Jimmy G doesn't step up to the plate, I know he's coming off the injury last year.
Yeah.
And also Kittle's coming back as well.
Yes. Which again we will get into
exactly
when we reveal our top 10 list. I think this is just kind of it's a matter of time, basically. When Trey Lance is going to get on the field, not if Trey Lance is going to get on the field.
He was drafted, but just coming out and saying it,
You're the third overall pick. Now, I keep harkening back to this, but please, if you watch this and you want more information about Trey Lance, obviously you can look on your phone, but you could go and watch our draft podcast, and I went to death.
Paul did a good breakdown of him.
Of Trey Lance and what I like about him and what I don't necessarily like about him. I think he's a good guy. I really do. I like the person he is.
Didn't Colin Coward say it? Or Colin Coward? I don't Coward. I can't.
Coward. Yes.
It sounds like you're saying coward.
Yeah,
But it's Cowherd's
yeah.
daughter.
I like
Alright.
I like the person he is. The accuracy concerns me. But the ability to make reads is next level.
I think we said this, and his athleticism is also another key
oh yes,
to his success. Hopefully, I mean, if you're saying,
but it is a big jump going from Division II football in college to the NFL, and that's going to be a difficult step that he's going to have to take. That I think ultimately he will, and we can't ignore the fact that Jimmy G led them to a Super Bowl. Now you could argue it was their defense that got them to the Super Bowl, and they're returning a lot of starters from that 2019 team that went to the Super Bowl and were injured last year, including Nick Bosa, who was the defensive rookie of the year in 2019, and you could have argued the defensive player of the year in 2019. Ultimately didn't get it, but and if they'd won that Super Bowl, you could have argued the Super Bowl MVP, and they're getting him back this year. So if Trey Lance can get his opportunities and make the most out of them, they took him simply to have a guy who could be athletic, make plays outside the pocket. Something that Jimmy G's not necessarily great at doing. I think Jimmy G's more accurate, more of a prototypical type passer, more of a pocket passer. But yeah, it doesn't surprise me that Kyle Shanahan wants to get him on the field, give him some live reps.
yeah. Well, my last little topic here is Clowney going to Cleveland? He signs with Cleveland. Decent,
Yeah, and it is really, really good. I keep harkening back to this, but I spoke about Cleveland, how much I love their draft, and they got Greg Newsome, the cornerback out of Northwestern, in the first round this year, and I could argue they have the best defensive line in all the NFL, and they just improved upon it immensely. And now they can rotate.
Player.
Yeah, now they can rotate more guys in the defensive line. I just think about Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney coming off the edges, and how you're going to be able to stop that.
It's just ridiculous.
It's not going to be
ridiculous.
It's not going to be easy.
You look at both those guys. It is crazy how athletically gifted those guys are.
Yeah,
it's insane. It's insane.
Myles Garrett seems.
He's not a human. He's just not a human.
Yeah, honestly,
just shredded. Just shredded.
Watching him at the draft, watching him announce, I believe their third round pick. Yeah, he looks physically imposing, and he's a very intelligent man. He understands the game of football, understands the intricacies of how to play his position really well, and I don't want to say he plays like an elephant role like Charles Haley did for the Cowboys, but certainly could do that if they asked him to.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be surprised if we saw him line up in different areas on the defensive line and even maybe stand up at linebacker. I think he could do that, honestly, if they asked him to. I don't think they will, but he could. And that's kind of the point.
Yep.
So it's looking good for Cleveland.
One's deep.
Yeah.
All right, Paul. Well, you ready to fucking start this fucking shit?
Yes.
No.
Yeah.
Well, first episode. Yeah. Paul, we might do clean from now on.
Yeah, we're gonna try to.
Yeah, we didn't really talk about it beforehand, but this episode we're gonna rate it X for excellent. Knee slap. Shut up, Paul. I'm just trying. Fuck dad jokes. I can say whatever the hell I want right now because we already swore, and I don't want to bleep it out.
Okay.
Beep, beep, beep. All right. Anyway, so let's start with our tight ends. Number one, Travis Kelce. We both had Travis Kelce. I know we both had Travis Kelce.
4 consecutive seasons with 1,000 yards. First tight end ever in NFL history to do that. He is in his early 30s, however.
Yep.
but he has Patrick Mahomes playing in football, so that's not gonna change.
Yeah, he's you don't want to say wide receiver number one, but he's the large receiver there. You know, in my opinion. I mean,
Yeah,
realistically, you know, Tyreek Hill, he is the number one receiver there, but he's not a large man. You know, he's fast and he gets the ball. But Travis Kelce's definitely number one. Slips out. He's very good. Just everything overall.
yeah.
But yeah, he can slip coverage very easily and just Page and him just have this perfect
Use
connection.
his physical gifts, such as his body size, to kind of outjump corners and linebackers and outrun linebackers. And he has a really good physical skill set that makes him the best tight end in football right now.
Yep, there's just a reason. Athleticism, all that jazz. He's gonna be the best tight end this year. I think everyone just agrees. You know, it's pretty simple, pretty honestly very simple to say he's number one.
Yes.
So number two, would you like to go on yours?
My number two is George Kittle, and we spoke about the 49ers recently. Even if Trey Lance is out there, I think that George Kittle will be the second tight end in the NFL. He had injuries last year that prevented him from finishing the season. However, he led the NFL for all tight ends in rack yards in 2019, and that's including Travis Kelce. This guy is a very explosive player. He created National Tight Ends Day. It's in typically week 10 of the season. It's quite awesome. Huge wrestling fan. Has quoted the we spoke about him on the podcast. Dwayne The Rock Johnson on numerous occasions. He's just an overall good player. Really explosive. Out of cuts. Really explosive with the ball in his hand, and underrated in terms of his power, physical skill set, like his ability to truck people and just stiff arm people, corners, linebackers. He's a very physical tight end, and I don't think he gets enough credit for that. I think a lot of people see the plays and the yards and the stats, and they say this is a really good tight end. But I think there's something more that he loves the game of football, and it's evident every time you watch him play.
Oh, I did not have him as my number two. I had Darren Waller. Darren Waller, the baller, baby. I'm out of Las Vegas. He has Derek Carr throwing him the ball. They have a really good connection. He's very good at going up and getting the ball. He's number one receiver there. He has a receiver's body, a large receiver's body, but he's also very physical for being a tight end. He has to be a little physical. But he's also very athletic. He's a very athletic tight end.
Extremely
lengthy, and he has that little extra football knowledge.
Yeah.
That's why I put him at number two, because he is their number one receiver there, and he's been tearing it up since he's got there.
Yeah, Hard Knocks. They asked the question, who in camp right now is that you don't know? Is everyone going to know by the season's end? And everyone said Darren Waller, and I mean we all know that to be true now, because he's been their top receiving threat in Vegas. Hopefully Henry Ruggs can step up, former first round pick,
Take some pressure off of him.
They added Kenyon Drake at the running back position along with Josh Jacobs, maybe a little thunder and lightning. Harking back to 2017 and Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram.
Yeah,
really create something like that.
But yeah, he's a very big play guy, and taking a little bit of pressure off of him, getting the double coverage off of him, will help him out with those big plays, and that's why I believe he's going to have a great
Vegas runs if they can run the football and create more 6 and 8 man boxes, you're going to see situations where Waller is one-on-one with someone who's not as fast or as tall as he. He's gonna control the game, manipulate coverage, and
He's
determine where to
going
go.
to do very well this year.
Yes.
Your number 3, Paul?
My number 3 is Darren Waller. We
just spoke about him.
We just spoke about him.
Okay, and my number 3 is George Kittle. So we flip flopped on there.
We did flip flop on there.
I mean, we both gave our reasons why.
Yes.
I think coming off the injury, that's why I don't have Kittle as number 2 for me.
I completely understand that.
Yeah, Waller, he's just very consistent. Okay, number 4, Paul.
Number 4 for me is T.J. Hockenson.
Hockenson, baby, Hockenson.
Now, I initially had him at 5, but the more I thought about it, the more I think he has to be the number 1 threat in Detroit.
Yeah, he has to step up to the game,
And I feel like he's going to be a security blanket for Jared Goff in his first season in Detroit. Detroit has to run the football. I feel like with a lot of these tight ends we're going to talk about, the running game is key to their success, because not only are they going to have to block, which many of these guys do well, and a lot of them don't get enough credit for how they block. T.J. Hockenson has the ability to block and block really well. A really good receiving threat. He had 6 touchdowns last year, 67 receptions, 700 yards. I expect those numbers to go up because you no longer have Marvin Jones there. You no longer have Kenny Golladay there. Those numbers have to go up. He has to be the number 1 guy, and that's why he's 4.
I have Mark Andrews as number 4. Mark did very well last year. Even with Lamar not performing as well as he did in previous year, having his MVP season. But I believe Lamar is gonna do very well this year, and Mark Andrews is just gonna get the ball. He's a very physical guy, but also he's just a go-to. I believe he is a go-to guy for Lamar, and I know that's kind of a little controversial, saying but I think Lamar can depend on Mark, and
yeah.
He's like, and when I throw him the ball, he's gonna catch it.
So many of these guys are security blankets for their quarterbacks, and
just that dump off.
Yeah,
even, it's just he's a very secure pick, and that's why I put him as 4 because I know
a lot of flat routes out of these guys, and goal line work that they get in terms of receptions, opportunities to catch the ball, touchdowns. They get a lot of those, especially Mark Andrews, who had 7 touchdowns last year.
Yeah, he was kind of dwindling off towards the end of the year.
He really was, but I feel like that was a reflection of Lamar Jackson's season as a whole,
and not Mark Andrews.
I
truly believe that as well.
Rashard Bateman there, and they hope that Hollywood Brown can step up and be the receiver they drafted 22nd overall, and with Bateman there being the kind of go up and get it type of receiver, which they desperately need, and they've been trying to get in Baltimore. They bring in a lot of guys, a lot of physical receivers. They were in contact with T.Y. Hilton before he signed with the Colts. They've been in contact with a lot of receivers over the years, and none of them have come to Baltimore for some reason. So they went on and drafted one, and hopefully this takes some of the pressure off Mark Andrews, and he's able to do better this year.
So I'm thinking, well, your number 5, Paul?
My number 5 is Kyle Pitts, and
we're getting the rookies. First rookie mentioned in our Fantasy Football podcast.
So there was a lot of speculation at 4 what the Falcons were going to do. Were they going to take a quarterback and build for the future? Were they going to take this guy, Kyle Pitts? No doubt rookie sensation, tight end, a guy who is technically a tight end, but is really a wide receiver, playing tight end.
He has a very nice stature. He is
extremely tall, extremely lengthy, and extremely fast.
Yeah,
he is one of the quickest tight ends I've ever seen come out. One of the best grades you could give a tight end coming out. Honestly, his athleticism is so impressive, and it's a real shame that Julio Jones and the Falcons had to part ways, but
They had to do what they had to do.
they had to do that because of salary cap issues. They couldn't afford to pay him that amount of money. Hopefully, he and Calvin Ridley can
Do well. I think Michael Pitts will be a not.
Kyle Pitts.
Yeah. Sorry.
Oh no.
Yeah. Kyle Pitt. I believe Kyle Pitts is gonna be able to take over a good majority of that role that Julio Jones was doing there in Atlanta. You know.
Yeah. Again, it's
Not the full thing, because Julio is a he's just a legend. He's a walking legend.
he's a future Hall of Famer. I don't think there's an argument to that. They did sign Mike Davis, who played for the Panthers last year, took over for Christian McCaffrey when he got hurt.
Did very well.
Did very well.
Very
And
well.
If they can run the football, and keep saying this, but if they can run the football, it can be a very, very productive offense. I mean, when we several years removed from Matt Ryan being the MVP of the NFL, I really thought it was Aaron Rodgers that year, but give to Matt Ryan, and he had a fantastic season, and deserved it. I wouldn't argue with that. I thought it was Aaron Rodgers. He threw more touchdowns. He played better, but that's just my opinion. But I think he's still got the arm strength to put balls where they need to be for Kyle Pitts, and this offense should be good this year. Should be good.
Should be. Keyword could be. All right. At number 5, I had T.J. Hockenson, aforementioned. I believe he's number one receiver. He's what the Lions have, and he's going to do pretty well this year. I believe better than the last 2. So, moving on to number 6, Paul.
Number 6. Previously mentioned Mark Andrews. Just a really solid tight ends. Got a security blanket for Lamar Jackson, who isn't particularly accurate all the time. He's known more for running than he is passing, but when he passes, it's typically to Mark Andrews. And with the receivers he has there now, he should be better this year. Mark Andrews should be better this year. I see a very, very nice season, maybe 800. He could possibly hit 1,000 yards receiving. Maybe 9 touchdowns, I would say, is his max. I don't see much more than that, to be honest, because I think the Ravens are a team who runs the football. That's their identity, and that's what they've been. That's what they'll be.
Well. All right, my number 6, Tyler Higbee. All right, so we have Mr. Matt Stafford. This is Matt Stafford in Los Angeles. Mr. Matt Stafford. Well, we love Matt Stafford in this place, Paul.
Yeah,
God, you're so monotone, Paul. We need to fucking get the juices flowing, dude. Matt Stafford, Paul. They have Matt Stafford now. Listen, with Cooper Kupp and with Robert Woods, Tyler Higbee is going to be on that field, and he's going to have some free opportunities. And I believe Matt Stafford can deliver the ball to him and just deliver a phenomenal fantasy football season for him. I think Tyler, he's a little younger.
Yeah.
He's ready to go, and I think he didn't get a lot of opportunities with Jared Goff throwing the ball because Jared Goff had his boys. He had his number 1, number 2, and Tyler Higbee was his third little dump off guy. This is my opinion, Paul. Don't crap on my opinion, Paul.
I'm not. He was
the number 3rd.
Yeah, he was the third option, a very good offense.
Those two receivers, very fast receivers, both kind of slot receiver like.
Yeah.
But that does take away opportunities for the tight end. And I think with Matt Stafford there, he's going to spread out a little bit more because he
has the ability.
He really does have the ability. He has football awareness. He's a smart guy, and he has an arm. He has a crazy arm. Not saying Jared Goff didn't have an arm, but it's just not Matt Stafford's arm. But I believe he's going to have a great season this year. Okay. Yeah. I mean, you're like, maybe. All right, you're number 7, Paul.
I have nothing against Tyler Higbee or Matthew Stafford.
I think he was doing pretty well for a few games. He was up and downs, but I believe he's going to be more up this year than down.
Yeah. Entire offense is bolstered.
Yep.
That's a good thing.
They're gonna be a Super Bowl contender this year, 100%. Go ahead.
So for my
number 7
is Irv Smith Jr. out of Alabama, plays for Minnesota now. The Vikings have a really good offense. Dalvin Cook is going to be Dalvin Cook. That's a given. And they have Justin Jefferson, who was arguably the offensive rookie of the year last year. If not for a guy that we're going to mention later on. All the reports out of camp are that he is impressing coaching staff and other players. His father, a former first-round pick of the Saints, I believe, 1980s. So football is in his blood, and he was really impressive at Alabama, impressive enough to be a former first-round pick. Kirk Cousins no longer has Kyle Rudolph there. He's with the Giants. But without Kyle Rudolph, I think Irv Smith is given an opportunity to thrive, and if he can stay healthy, which hasn't always been the case, he can really do well in Minnesota. I think his ceiling's probably 800 yards and about 7 touchdowns, but that's not a horrible season. There's not a lot of depth to the tight end position, as we previously mentioned, but
yeah, it drives up very quickly.
So
those deeper leagues you're in, it's gonna be a little difficult getting a tight end that you can really depend on, and you might have to go through a few.
Week in and week out. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. And if you don't snag a tight end early, it is going to be pretty difficult. At my number 7, I have Noah Fant. He was doing very well last year. On a rather shaky team.
Yeah.
I think
a shaky quarterback situation that really hasn't been determined yet.
Yeah.
Who's going to be the week 1 starter? I believe it's going to be Bridgewater. I think he's the best quarterback in that building.
Yeah.
Right now,
he was doing well under Drew Lock. As a
former second-round pick, out of Missouri, who I really liked. Who didn't play necessarily like a lot of people expected him to last year. Yeah. But Noah Fant has looked all the bit.
I think, it doesn't really depend on the quarterback, I believe.
19th overall pick.
He was doing very well, and he had those games, his shining moments. But he's very fast, very athletic.
And I really think
very physical.
I really think that it kind of all depends on Jerry Jeudy's development this year and how he's able to play and evolve, and hopefully we can see a lot more out of these Denver receivers. KJ Hamler, the Penn State former second-round pick, really fast. I think 4.34 is 40 at the combine. Extremely fast. This is a team that really needs the receivers to step up to help Noah Fant develop into one of the better tight ends. But this could be a sneakily good tight end.
Yeah,
going forward.
Yeah, I believe he's going to be, and I think Bridgewater is going to get a job. I believe. I think. Yeah, we can both agree on that. I think they have Drew Lock right now, saying the starting quarterback, but I believe the beginning of the season is going to be Bridgewater.
Yeah,
and if they develop a connection, then he's going to be a pretty good pick this year. All right, number 8.
Number 8, Noah Fant for me, and for what we just
pointed it all out,
previously mentioned.
All right, so number 8 for me is Robert Tonyan. I don't know.
Robert Tonyan. Yeah.
I always mess up his name.
Oh no, it's.
But so the reason I have him number 8 is because he has Aaron Rodgers throwing him the ball. Aaron Rodgers did report to camp, and he is a Green Bay Packer this year, and he is going to be tossing the ball pretty well.
Yes.
I mean, it's just Aaron Rodgers.
When
you have Aaron Rodgers throwing you the ball,
Aaron Rodgers.
You're gonna be doing pretty well. Let's be realistic. Anything you have to say about him? Because that was the only reason I put him
was tied for 6th last year in touchdown receptions with 11. Aaron Rodgers trusts him in the red zone, and he was able to gain his trust and take those opportunities to make the most out of them. And with Aaron Rodgers returning, the sky's the limit for this Packers offense, and hopefully for Robert Tonyan means pretty much the same production. I would like to see a lot more yards. I think he's a bit bulkier.
Yeah, he's more of a get a touchdown. It's a touchdown or break week kind of thing because he is trusted in the red zone, but he's not going to get those big yardage plays.
Yeah, he's not going to be a consistent 100-yard receiving threat. You'll see probably like maybe 5 receptions for 50 yards and a touchdown. That'd be a really good week for him.
Yeah. All right, you're number 9.
My number 9 is who we just previously mentioned, Tonyan, and
we just mentioned it. My number 9, Kyle Pitts. We talked about him earlier.
I think
I mean,
really
it's just
low, really low.
Yeah, I did put him low, but I always have that little rookie skepticism. But to have him on a list, even if he was a wide receiver, I would probably still might have him on a list. I might, probably not though. But realistically, I mean, he's going to be pretty good, and for a rookie, he's going to tear it up. I don't know.
Might be the offensive rookie of the year.
Maybe. We'll see. All right, number 10.
My number 10 is Evan Ingram. And
Evan Ingram.
I really believe this Giants offense got significantly better.
I do too. I have a skepticism of Evan Ingram. It's just he seems like a guy. Paul, if you remember a few years back, and everyone trusted in a certain running back. And I can't remember his last name right now, but it's Doug
Martin.
Doug Martin. Oh, he's the Doug Martin of tight ends. He's the Doug Martin of tight ends, Paul.
I would say this.
Everyone says he's gonna do so well this year, and he just poops the bed, Paul.
If Daniel Jones can step up, which he has the receiving core to do so now.
Now so running back in the field.
Yes.
We'll mention this.
We'll mention this, but the fact that he has Kenny Galladay now, along with Sterling Shepard and Slayton,
it should open up some opportunities.
And he's got Kyle Rudolph there, who is a proven commodity at tight end. And yes, they play the same position, but he can learn a lot about running routes and how to block really well going forward in his career. I remember a game last year, I believe it was a Sunday Night Football game against the Eagles, where it was 3rd and 10, and Daniel Jones hit him in the hands, and he just dropped it. And it was a really disappointing season for him. He only had 1 receiving touchdown. I think he takes a big step up with the weapons around him. And he's extremely athletic. That's why he went in the first round at old several years ago. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what he can do with a proper amount of offense. Now, this is all predicated on Kenny Galladay and Saquon Barkley staying healthy.
Yeah, so I think even with that, even with the perfect team around him, I believe under pressure he cracks, and that's why I didn't put him on top 10. I will never draft that guy. I will never pick him up because I do not trust him.
I can understand.
I mean, I think he's a good guy. I think he's athletic. I don't think he has that X factor or that ability, that all-star tight ends have. At my number 10, a little no name, but taking over for a quarterback. I don't know. A little quarterback that changed to wide receiver, if you know what I'm talking about, because a future Hall of Fame quarterback just retired. It's Troutman. I don't know how to pronounce.
I honestly think yes. I
put him as my top 10. I put him as my 10 just because that offense is so like a high octane offense, and he is a large man, 6'6", 253 pounds. 253 pounds at 6'6". He's a very, very wide man, and I believe he's going to get the dump off passes because guess what? Taysom Hill does not like to throw to Alvin Kamara. You know what he likes to throw to? He likes to throw a little bit downfield, a little bit of Michael Thomas. Michael Thomas, we're gonna talk about him when we do our wide receivers, but he was not taking calls from the coaching staff at New Orleans, and I believe Michael Thomas is going to play in New Orleans. I think. I don't want to say anything.
He had surgery to repair his ankle. Yeah, won't be out till October. We'll talk about that.
Yeah, but even until
next week, I believe. But I wanna make this note that I believe it's gonna ultimately be Jameis Winston taking that starting job, and Taysom Hill is going to retain his position as kind of a gadget player.
Yeah.
But I will say this: with Michael Thomas being out, Troutman is going to have to step up, and if he does, it could be a very good season for him. However, you don't have Michael Thomas there to shift coverage. They're gonna have 8-man boxes to stop Kamara because it's Kamara, but I don't really see like another receiving threat that's gonna take away coverage from Troutman. I mean, Tre'Quan Smith.
Yeah, that is the unfortunate thing until Michael Thomas does hit the field. Yeah,
but Troutman is a very athletic guy for being as big as he is.
Yeah,
and lengthy, strong, and a pretty good blocker, and that's what they need because they have to run the football.
So, Paul, we have a little X Factor guy for each category. Who's your X Factor guy? Just a little bit about him.
But I really want to say this. I think that we discussed guys who are not on our top 10 that could end up being there in the end. And for me, it's Hunter Henry. And last year he had 4 receiving touchdowns. Only 4 receiving touchdowns. However, he was very consistent in terms of receptions and targets, and despite the fact that he's now in New England and Cam Newton it's kind of like an iffy thing with Mac Jones being there, and obviously Geno Smith also signing with New England Patriots. But I just look at Hunter Henry, a team captain last year, elected team captain for the Los Angeles Chargers on offense, and a really good blocker. A guy who runs his routes correctly and will embrace the quote-unquote Patriot way. And I think that he'll benefit from that. And this might be like a 2 tight ends sort of system where they get a lot of work. And I think Geno Smith could also benefit from this. I think they both could benefit from this because they don't really have an outside weapon that you say, oh my gosh, it's keeping a defensive coordinator up at night. Yeah. So those 2 guys really have to step up, and I think Hunter Henry will. I wouldn't be surprised if he was named team captain for New England Patriots this year on offense, because quite honestly, he's a leader in that locker room, and
Yeah. Okay. Well, my guy, pretty quick. Blake Jarwin. He got injured last year. Got injured, I think, the first week. I don't remember. And then we lost Dak Prescott to his gruesome injury as well.
Yeah, ankle injury.
And but I believe with a healthy Dak Prescott, Blake Jarwin can do some pretty good damage down the field. He's pretty athletic. He's a hard worker, and I think he's very smart. Very smart.
Considering the other weapons around him,
he should do fine.
He should do well.
He should do very well. Yeah. Hopefully, if he can stay healthy.
Yes, if he could stay healthy.
That was my little point. All right, moving on to quarterbacks, Paul. Moving us along, baby. Let's start off. We both know who number 1 is. It's Patty Mahomes. Yeah, 2 Kansas City guys, topping the list. Tight end and quarterback. I mean, really, enough said. Patty Mahomes. No, he's just such a unique player. He can throw on the run. He's an athletic goddess, and goddess, God. I mean, I know.
If you look at his stats last year, pretty comparable to most most quarterbacks in the NFC. Tom Brady had more passing touchdowns. But Patrick Mahomes had 4,700 yards passing, almost 5,000 yards passing. I believe led the NFL in passing yards.
Yeah.
He has a versatile skill set. He makes ridiculous throws that no other human being aside from
Matt Stafford.
no, I would say Aaron Rodgers.
I believe Matt Stafford has some pretty crazy throws himself.
He does. He does. I'm not arguing that, but Aaron Rodgers would be my comparison in terms of pure absurdity of certain throws that he makes and positions that he makes them in. I mean, there was one in his MVP season, I believe it was week 2 against San Francisco, where it was week 3 against San Francisco. He's rolling out right, and I'm yelling at my TV because I have him starting because he threw 6 touchdown passes against the Steelers the week prior, and I'm just yelling at my TV, don't throw that, don't throw that, don't throw that. You know, he's a second year guy. I'm like, don't throw that, and then he just hits the receiver in
So he's throwing
stride.
on the rod, the opposite side of the field. He throws it across his body and hits perfectly. Right? This is right?
No. He rolled out right,
Okay.
and he's looking right the entire way.
Yeah.
And I see at least several defenders for the 49ers over there, and I'm like, don't throw that, because someone's gonna jump in front of that, and he just throws a dart, a literal laser shot into his receiver perfectly on time.
Threads the needle.
And it was perfect.
Yeah, because the thing I brought up is he's definitely done that before, and you can name multiple plays where he's done this. He just is so different. He has that X factor that no one else in the NFL has. He's going to do well. He's always going to do well. He has very good receiving cores, a good backfield, and a line that wants to keep him protected because they respect the man. He's paid. He's a $500 million man for a reason.
Yes.
He's Patty Mahomes, baby. Number 2, Paul. Who's your number 2?
My number 2 is Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers. Now that is pretty high for Aaron Rodgers.
Last year's MVP, and this appears to be the swan song for he and the Green Bay Packers. Yep. They posted on social media when he announced he was coming back. It was in 1990. What was it? 1995. Scottie Pippen and Michael Jordan fist pound. Like,
it's a good indication that this is the last season for Aaron Rodgers. They're going to be parting ways this year.
They're going to be parting ways this year. It appears.
And you think Aaron Rodgers is going to go off on time?
Oh, I think Aaron Rodgers wants to give the Packer fans whom he loves a show. Truly, a show. And I think this will be a season for Aaron Rodgers that we talk about for possibly generations. And what I mean by that is something we've never seen before. 6,000 yards pass.
That's bold, Paul. That is a bold statement.
That is a bold statement.
I mean, he has the weapons to do so, but it is a bold statement. He's getting up there in age, Paul. I mean,
he has Devontae Adams, who is in a contract year.
Yeah.
And needs to play well again this year to be the highest paid receiver by leaps and bounds. And the Packers didn't want to do that because they have financial difficulties right now going forward.
Yep.
But another team could look at it and say, we can pay him in excess of $25 million per year, especially if he does well this year. So, I mean, is it bold for me to say possibly 2,000 for him because of the 6,000 for Aaron Rodgers? I don't think so.
Again, a bold statement. I think it's a bold statement.
I don't think so.
I think he's going to do well this year.
There's a possibility that he could break Calvin's single season yardage mark because they have Valdes-Scantling on the outside, and they just traded to get back Randall Cobb, and this is one of the concessions that Aaron Rodgers wanted the Packers to make for him to come back. We've spoken about this. There was this whole thing for months on end, and we didn't know whether he'd come back. And he was very frank when he came back. He said, "I contemplated retirement," and I think this is a season for the ages. It's Super Bowl or bust. They've gone 13-3 in the last 2 years. This is Aaron Rodgers' swan song to Green Bay, and I think it's going to be a wonderful season for him. Again, 6,000 yards.
It's very bold, very bold. I think he might get up to 5,000. 6,000 is a push for me. But okay, Paul. I mean, bold statements. I have a little bold. My bold pick is, I mean, maybe not that bold. Number 2, Josh Allen. I love Josh Allen. Joshy Javelins, baby, throwing them darts across the field. He's strong. First of all, he's a lot larger than he looks on TV, which is crazy. What,
6'5"?
6'5". He is a powerhouse. He can run the ball. He's fast. Do you remember his 40 at all?
I believe it was 4.6.
Very quick for a quarterback his size. He's also, I mean, he has the strength behind it, but his throwing accuracy has gotten better over the last few years.
Yes,
and he's becoming a smart quarterback.
Yes,
he's getting off these first few years, and he's becoming a developed quarterback. And in the next few years, he might be the number 1 quarterback, because I think he's a very intelligent man. He makes the right throws. He has Stephon Diggs, who is his boy, but he also has a very good receiving core. I know he has
John Brown. They just signed Emmanuel Sanders, who a veteran presence that can help with the younger guys with route running and stuff like that, and help Josh Allen really be kind of a dump off kind of guy. Make just solid catches, and I think it's a really good pickup. They need someone to be opposite Stephon Diggs. I don't know if Emmanuel Sanders is that guy anymore, but he's a veteran presence that you need, a leader.
He might be Drew Brees. Maybe wasn't utilizing him in the correct way.
Yeah,
last year it's just, I don't know.
I'm really excited to see Josh Allen. People don't realize how athletic he is and how good he is at running football.
He does not look like an athletic man. He looks like a 13-year-old kid that hasn't hit puberty yet. And then you realize how big he is, and you're like, what in the heck, dude?
Difficult to tackle in difficult to tackle in open space. I had a note: 8 rushing touchdowns last year for Josh Allen. That is second most for quarterbacks last year.
Mm-hmm. Tough guy. He'll get the job done, and I mean, he'll take a shot to the chin, get back up, and keep going.
Signed that huge deal that we mentioned previously, and deserves every penny of it.
Got paid. All right, your number 3, Paul?
My number 3 is Dak Prescott.
Dak coming off the injury, baby. Woo! That was a gruesome injury. Before the injury, he's probably having an MVP season. Quite honestly, and I understand why you have him as number 3.
Let me say this. So, out of the 4 complete games he played last year, he had 3 games with 450 plus passing yards. And the other game was his first game, where he had, I believe, 266. Correct me if I'm wrong there, but that is absolutely insane. And he finished as the quarterback 32 in fantasy football. There were more than 32 quarterbacks to take an NFL snap in a regular season game last year. And he finished as quarterback 32, only playing 4.5 games. That's crazy.
That's insane.
That's utterly insane. And he brings back Amari Cooper, gets CeeDee Lamb in his second year, who really played well last year. And I don't know if you remember the catch against Minnesota where he falling backward.
Yeah.
Insane. I really do like CeeDee Lamb. Talk about Ezekiel Elliott. I don't know if the Cowboys are going to be able to pay him going forward, so this might be his last year in Dallas, and I think he kind of realizes that. So he may want to go out.
Get a little highlight tape going on for these other teams to show them that, hey, you should pay me a lot of money.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah. And, I mean,
the offensive line has gotten better. Tyron Smith
Crazy. It's gotten better.
needs to stay healthy, as well as Lyle Collins and Zach Martin. If those three guys can stay healthy, Dak Prescott should have a phenomenal season, and they'll get back to running the football. I will say this: the yards that he had last year were really because the defense was so awful, and he had to throw it as much as he did. But he's still gonna be a guy with 4,500 yards passing and possibly 40 touchdowns. And if that's the case,
decent chunk of rushing yards
and a decent chunk of rushing.
I think they're gonna pull him back a little bit on rushing just because of the injury, but I think
the fact that they paid him so much money.
Yeah, and he's their franchise quarterback. Okay, my number 3 is Mr. Unlimited himself, Russell Wilson. I mean, it's Russell Wilson. He's a veteran quarterback. He knows what's up. He did phenomenal. He was in the contention of fucking MVP season, you know. Correct me if I'm wrong. Kind of the gas got a little turned off towards the end of the season.
I was going to actually mention that. So their defense was pretty awful throughout last year, but especially early on in the season, and he had to throw the football a lot, and he threw the football a lot. But then they got back to what they do well, and that was running the football, and he didn't necessarily have to throw it as much. So you saw a dip in the yards. I believe through the last 8 games, he only had one 300-yard passing game. So he didn't really throw it that much
afterwards. But, I mean, still, realistically, he's a very, very solid pick. He can get the ball where he needs to get the ball. I've seen some very, very impressive throws from him. He knows what's up. He knows what he needs to do.
Thursday Night Football, Seattle against Los Angeles. Russell Wilson throws it to Tyler Lockett, and it's literally a throw you make in Madden.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I remember that. All right, your number 4?
My number 4 is Josh Allen, and for the reasons we previously
mentioned. My number 4, Mr. Kyler Murray. So he has a. I mean, if you want to go off a little bit on Kyler Murray, I think he's such an athletic guy, and he has such an arm for such a small guy. It's so insane. He just doesn't.
I would argue he's 5'9.5", so not much taller than I am.
Realistic. He's 5'8".
Maybe even shorter than I am. To be honest.
He might be, dude, but it is insane how athletic he is and how good that he is at being a quarterback. I don't know how he sees over his offensive lineman, but
he usually scrambles out or steps up in the middle and just
launches it.
Whips it out there. But
go a little tangent off on him. Go ahead, Paul.
Okay, so Kyler Murray last year, it shocked me when I looked at his rushing touchdown. He had 11 rushing touchdowns. 11. This is on top of 20, I believe it was 26 passing touchdowns.
Yeah.
So 37 overall touchdowns.
And I believe it is because he is rushing out of the pocket, but then he sees those openings, and he's fast enough. He has like Tyreek Hill type of like the look of Tyreek with his speed. Just how fast he can just turn it on, just go.
I can understand why they set aside Josh Rosen to go get this guy, because he's incredibly impressive in terms of his accuracy for being as short as he is, but his arm strength is, as we mentioned, is also ridiculous. The game against Buffalo, when he threw that Hail Mary, DeAndre Hopkins,
and just annihilated Buffalo fans and just made them very, very sad.
I mean, Buffalo made the playoffs and Arizona didn't. But
yeah, but still, it was a hard game. It was a hard game for some people to watch.
Yeah, it was. But when you watch that play, he scrambles out left, and he's going left, shifts his hips, and the angle which he released that ball. Now, he's a former baseball player. I believe he was taken 8th overall in the MLB draft by the Athletics. the Oakland Athletics, decided to play football. The angle which he released that was absolutely insane, and the fact that he's scrambling out left and he's going back right to throw that ball is just—it's ridiculous.
It is madness. It is crazy. His stature does not match his physical ability, which is crazy.
Not at all.
But also, his stature does match with his speed, because he is very, very quick, and his agility and his
he is
speed
much
is
quicker
crazy.
than like his legs look like
It just looks like a dart going across the field.
looks like the road runner.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous how fast he is. But it also is crazy how his arm strength, his accuracy. He is a good quarterback for his size. It doesn't make sense how good of a quarterback he is based on his size. Because if he was Josh Allen's size and he was the exact same everything, but his size was bigger, he'd be the number one quarterback.
Yeah,
You would.
you could argue.
You could argue. Okay. What's your number 5, Paul?
My number 5 is Kyler Murray, and that's why.
Yeah, and aforementioned. And my number 5 is Dak Prescott, aforementioned earlier. Both believe he's going to do pretty well.
That was a throw, and I believe it was 2018 that Dak made to Bryce Butler in the back of the end zone, and I was just like, that is so perfect.
Yeah.
That was such a perfect throw. And so often I say that, and he's an incredibly underrated quarterback for what he does for that.
And he's such a good guy.
Yeah.
He just deserves everything he should be getting, All right, Paul, your number 6.
My number 6 is Russell Wilson.
Also my Jimmy's.
We obviously
aforementioned.
Yeah. We spoke about him, and Russell is just a really consistent
veteran quarterback.
Veteran quarterback who's going to finish in the top 10. He's going to do that.
He's going to do well, like normal. And we're back. Sorry, we had a little interruption, little thing we had to do there really quick. Yeah, so we were just talking about Russell Wilson, veteran quarterback. He's your number 5?
My number 6.
Number 6, okay. And so my number 6 here is Lamar Jackson, Paul. Lamar Jackson. He had a very lackluster season last year, and
didn't pass for 3,000 yards, only 2,700. Only had, I believe, 2 games with over 100 yards. Did have, I believe it was 8 rushing touchdowns, which was tied for second. No, I'm sorry. 7 rushing touchdowns, which was third in the NFL last year. But yeah, had an overall disappointing season.
Coming off his MVP season.
After coming off his MVP season.
Everyone had really high hopes for him, and he kind of didn't live up to it this year. But I think that the little pressure's off. Grown. He has the weapons to do well.
The draft was Sean Bateman out of Minnesota this year. A really physical receiver who can go get those 50-50 balls that Lamar Jackson typically throws, or hasn't been able to throw, frankly, because he hasn't had the type of weapon that Rashard Bateman is.
Yeah.
But yeah, if Holly Brown can step up, it should help immensely. We previously mentioned Mark Andrews.
Yeah, and I believe the him being able to throw the ball is going to kind of open up the game for him to run the ball a little bit, because that was his bread and butter.
Yeah,
his MVP season was be able to run the ball and make just outlandish plays.
He needs to be more accurate. But he should have a good season, a nice bounce back season. Hopefully, he can stay off the COVID list and move forward. My 7, I believe we're on, is Lamar Jackson, and for the reasons we previously mentioned.
My 7 is Mr. Aaron Rodgers. He's in Green Bay. He's going to do it. He's going to do well. And well mentioned, he's there. He's ready to go. He has a great team around them. He should do very well this year. Number 8, Paul?
My number 8 is Matthew Stafford.
As well as my number 8, Paul. And Matthew Stafford's number 8 because he has some great weapons out there.
That's a Super Bowl bust team out there in LA.
It's all ridiculous.
He needs to stay healthy. The offensive line needs to stay healthy. But if they do, it's unfortunate that Cam Akers did get hurt, so that leaves kind of the backfield a little bit of an ambiguous situation in terms of who's going to carry the load. I think it's going to ultimately be Henderson. But Brown's going to be in the mix as well.
And they're all pretty good running backs there.
Yeah.
You know, it's 3 decent running backs.
It's a decent running back group, but we previously talked about Tyler Higbee, but his main 2 guys are going to be Robert Woods, who's a veteran receiver, and Cooper Kupp, who's still really young and kind of more of a slot.
Still kind of a veteran receiver.
Yeah. Both named T captains last year.
Yeah, and both are phenomenal.
Yeah, both are leaders in the locker room.
Workhorses. I mean, really, just
and with that defense being as good as it's going to be, it should be a very good year for Matthew Stafford again if he gets there healthy.
They're healthy. He's out there with his boy. So okay. So number 9, Paul.
My number 9 is Tom Brady. Tom Brady had 40 touchdown pass. The GOAT, 44 years of age, Super Bowl champion, 7 times. Go Blue. He had 40 touchdown passes with a torn MCL last year, the entire season. The entire season he had a torn MCL. And won a Super Bowl and threw 40 touchdown passes. Do I need to say more? I don't think I do.
Yeah, I don't have him on my top 10, but I do believe he's going to do okay this year. I won't draft him.
He has Mike Evans, Chris Guy.
He has such a good receiving core.
They're bringing back every single starter on that team from last year.
Yeah, he has a great receiving core. I'm not saying he's not going to do well.
This is another Super Bowl bust team, and so many of these guys that we talk about are Super Bowl and bust, and that's why they have to play well. And someone seeking deals, and like Lamar Jackson, he needs to play well because he needs to be up in that Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen stratosphere. That's what he wants. That's what the Ravens want for him because they want to be able to give him that money. You've earned it. He needs to win a playoff game. Well, another playoff game. He needs to get to a Super Bowl. He needs to win a Super Bowl. And going back to Tom Brady, he's the GOAT. He's the GOAT. There's no argument. There's no question mark. There's no anything. He has 7 rings.
Yeah, it's not gonna happen in our lifetime again. That's never gonna happen. It might happen one day if the world just keeps trucking on, but in our lifetime, that's never gonna happen again. At number 9, I have Ryan Tannehill. Paul, tell me why I have Ryan Tannehill at number 9.
You have Ryan Tannehill at number 9 because he's gonna have a lot of 8-man boxes, play action pass off those 8-man boxes, and he has Julio Jones and AJ Brown on the outside.
2 dominant receivers.
With
a dominant running back in the backfield. Derrick Henry is a monster of a man. He doesn't even seem like a real man.
No. Yeah. Led the league in rushing yards these last 2 years, trying to be the NFL's version of a Triple Crown.
Yeah.
3 consecutive years, which is entirely possible for him. Made his money.
Got paid.
Yeah.
Got paid. All right, number 10, Paul.
My number 10 is Justin Herbert.
My number 10 is Justin Herbert as well, Paul.
I will just say this. 31 passing touchdowns last year. He broke the NFL rookie record. Previously held by Baker Mayfield, but before that, it was Peyton Manning, who tomorrow will be inducted into the NFL Hall of Fame. If you in your rookie year playing 15 games can throw 31 touchdowns and over 400 yards, or 4,000 yards rather, and be as dominant as they were, and they had, I believe it was like 7 one-possession games. I don't think Anthony Lynn should have been fired last year. I don't believe it was his fault. They lost a lot on defense. Derwin James is coming back for that defense, and they should be better. He's going to be the defensive play caller this year. He's going to have the sticker on his helmet. He's getting the plays called in his ear. And this defense didn't properly function last year without him. They're going to a 3-4, which I'm kind of concerned about because it's a new scheme. We're losing Melvin Ingram. I don't mean to continuously talk about the defense, but I think that his success, Justin Herbert's, is predicated on that defense playing well and getting him opportunities to get it to Keenan Allen, to get it to Austin Eckler out of the backfield. Austin Eckler needs to stay healthy for that team to do well. They have Justin Jackson, who was pretty good last year in relief. I think a really good player coming out of Northwestern. 4,000 yards, 1,000 yards each of the 4 years he was at Northwestern. He's
gonna do well this year.
He's gonna do well.
He's gonna do well this year. And I mean, yeah, starting as many games as he did and how dominant he was, it is crazy. I believe he's gonna have a great career. And yeah, we put him as number 10. He might jump up in the top 5 next year, depending on this year.
Yeah, true.
Quite honestly. All right, you have your little special, just a little asterisk quarterback, Paul.
A guy that's not in my top 10 that could possibly sneak up in there for me is Joe Burrow. They go and they get Jamar Chase, his former teammate, his number 1 guy, and so Justin Jefferson, who we've previously spoken about today,
Vikings.
Was the number 2 guy to Jamar Chase. People kind of forget that, but that's how it was. And I feel like Joe Burrow kind of had a say about who they drafted at 5. A lot of people thought they'd take Sewell, and maybe they should have taken Sewell considering how Burrow's season ended last year. However, Burrow has the weapons now. He has the weapons on the outside to really make a run at this and potentially be really good. He has Joe Mixon. A lot of people keep talking about Joe Mixon and saying this is the year, but I honestly think this is the year. This is the year that Joe Mixon can take a big step up because he has the quarterback that's accurate. He has a wide receiver on the outside who's healthy. Last year, AJ Green was not healthy and did not play.
If he can stay healthy, he's going to do pretty well.
Yes, if he can stay healthy, he'll play pretty well.
Mine is Daniel Jones. I think we could both agree on this.
Yes, we both.
Yeah, we both were kind of talking about this earlier.
We talked about their offense.
Yeah, so they have. Okay, so let's start off with Mr. Backfield, Mr. Man. If Saquon Barkley doesn't tear his ACL or fuck anything up again this year, he should be fine. It's taking the relief off Daniel Jones. Number 2. He has Kenny Galladay there now, along with the receivers he had before. But Kenny Galladay is a big time receiver.
And Shepard.
Slayton and Shepard should complement Kenny Galladay pretty well. And if Evan Ingram can step up to the plate, Daniel Jones will do well this year because he is an athletic man and he can run pretty fast.
It's a make or break year for Daniel Jones for GM Dave Gettleman. So this is a big year for the Giants. They need to do well. They need to compete in the NFC East. And if they do, you could see a big year out of Daniel Jones.
Yep. Well, that was our top 10 quarterbacks and tight ends. That was the first episode. Next episode, I don't think we're gonna swear. So, Paul, get your swearing out right now. Swear for the camera, Paul. Swear. Say a swear word, Paul.
I refuse.
Fuck, baby. Fuck. It's technically Sunday now, baby. Fuck. But next week, we'll let you know what we're doing. But we'll be here next week. We're gonna break down another two position classes, and and then we'll go from there. Give a little bit of fantasy news, and we're just rolling with the punches here. We're just rolling with the punches, baby. All right, you guys take care and have a nice day. Bye.